I saw the Odyssey and then promptly passed out. It was that powerful. Hey! I've renamed Farley to Odysseus. I'm testing out the name. Hi! Hi, little Oddie. Little odd. Anon, thank you for the 47 months. Tier 2. Farley, do not take any unnecessary journeys. Farley, I know you have trauma. I know you have PTSD. You got a lot of trauma. Trauma. Saw it in 70 millimeter IMAX. Arkham, thank you for the 5 months. White Grizzly, thank you for the 34. Poppy, thank you for the tier 1. Molly, thank you for the prime. Evils, thank you for the prime. I saw it, yes. I mean, it's big. It's big. It's Nolan as fuck. You know, he really likes to do the extraordinary. That man loves cinema. Loves big spectacle, to push the limits of what movies can be. What movies can be, what movies should be. He's into that. Did your sunglasses bruise you? No, I'm still recovering from my face lasering, so it looks like I got beat up a little bit. Yeah, I got beat up by Odyssey fans who were just so out of control. Hottest seats in town. Did he push the limits of your eardrums? Y'all, okay. I don't know if I'm getting older. Yes, I am getting older. I also don't know if it's my tinnitus. Yes, it's also my tinnitus, and I have to go see a doctor next week, but I think this may have been the loudest movie I've ever been in. There were multiple points that I had to do this, and the scenes were so extended. Like, you would think, okay, we've reached the climax. Yeah, Anon. Airplane destroying my ears so Nolan can't. Precisely. You would think, like, okay, we've reached the climax. And no, and then it would keep going. It'd be like 5 extra minutes. It was so loud, and it just keeps crescendoing in multiple scenes where you're like, oh, I'm gonna die. Oh, I'm dying. And I'm glad other people experience this, because I went, is it just me? I was looking around. I was like, it just keeps getting louder. I know. You should have seen it in this theater. Oh, is this... What? Oh, hold on. Whatever you do, do not watch the Odyssey in 4. Oh, this is the one where they move shit up and down. Why does this look like they're going through a tornado? Oh my God. So basically a Disney ride. Yeah, basically a Disney ride.
The last thing I remember was...
Truly, Odysseus and his crew are not the only ones fighting for air in that room. Yeah, there were multiple points I thought I would not make it through. Legend has it, nobody escapes the tsunami scene alive. But holy shit, you really feel like you're there. You feel like you are there in Troy. You feel like you are there on the many beaches they pull up to, and then deal with the ensuing nightmares that live on said beaches and do not like to be disturbed by little ants. It's very immersive. It really is. I would say one of the best body horror scenes. Absolutely. One of the best body horror scenes. As far as the performances go, I think Hathaway was a standout. I think Samantha Morton was sh- awesome. She for me really sold the kind of anachronistic, more modernized speech and dialects in the movie. Loved John Leguizamo. I loved him. Elliot Page. I think Elliot was great. I think the problem was it was a little confusing as far as the timeline. Also, okay, so I thought Page actually played Achilles. Like, I really did not look too much into Odyssey before I saw it. Like, I know the story, I know Odyssey, Iliad, all that. But because conservatives kept screaming online, I think I genuinely had gotten confused because they totally made that up. At 1000% made up the fact that Elliot Page is playing Achilles. No, not at all. Achilles is not even in the damn story. Because Achilles is not, I think Achilles is made mention of in Odyssey, but Achilles is not a character. No, Achilles is featured heavily in the Iliad because the Odyssey is obviously about Odysseus and what happens after the Trojan War. Bigots making shit up just to be angry about it. Who could have seen this coming? Like, I know they make shit up, but they straight up made this up. Like, this wasn't even just them screaming about wokeness and DEI characters and how this is not how these fictional people really were, the usual stuff. No, they straight up lied about Elliot Page playing Achilles. So anyway, it took me a second to realize, oh, this is not Achilles. Okay. Yeah. Psycho, right-wing, deluded freaks just completely made this up to aid them in their crusade online. The only thing was that the character Elliot Page did play, I think is supposed to be a lot younger, which Elliot did a fine job. But Elliot Page is almost 40. So I almost wonder if a different character in the film would have been a better fit. Because I think the character Elliot Page is supposed to play is, they're a child when they go off to the war, and then it's 10 years. So no older than 20s. So I think it maybe would have been interesting to see Elliot as one of the suitors in Ithaca. Those 10 years, it really didn't bother me though. I do love now that I'm thinking about it, I do love what Nolan was doing with the casting of Elliot Page as that particular character. Elliot still does look a hell of a lot younger than Matt Damon. That is true. Yeah, Matt Damon has aged horribly, which, yes, I guess 10 years of the Trojan War, I'd probably be coming out of there looking, I'd probably be dead. I would be dead. Yeah. Yeah. Was Samantha Morton as good as I heard she was? She was really great. Yeah, she had, I think, one of the best emotional scenes. Like, one thing that I've struggled with Nolan films as of, I would say his more recent films, is I don't feel emotionally connected. I am really wowed by the spectacle and by what this man does with movies and just how fucking big he goes and kind of his overarching themes now of what have we done? What has mankind done? But I do struggle with feeling emotionally connected to the characters. I think storytelling is one of his weaker aspects, actually. So with Odyssey, one of the best scenes for me was Samantha Morton's scene as Samantha Morton plays Cersei, by the way. Calypso's probably one thing that didn't really work for me. Yeah, Calypso's scenes didn't really work for me either. But I think there were a few standout emotional moments. I think Anne Hathaway had a really, really great scene. She was terrifying in it too. She really hits the spectrum of emotions. And then there's a scene with kind of Odysseus's guilt, really the physical manifestation of his guilt, which involves the fallen soldiers of the Trojan War. But I think the thing with the Odyssey though is that I don't know if anybody really would have done this better. And I don't really know if it's a story that, I guess, as far as what Nolan did with this, really making the Odyssey this very epic, modern, fitting it for kind of modern standards, where people like really having a modern veneer to it, because the original Odyssey is very different. And the character of, I will say this was one of my issues, but the character of Odysseus is so morally complex. Like, you often don't like Odysseus. He's kind of a bastard in Homer's version. Is Bernthal playing himself? Yes. John Bernthal is like an East Coast tough guy. He's John Bernthal, essentially. So, kind of hard to make it a single movie. I haven't seen it yet, though. Yeah, look, if you are expecting this to be just a massively immersive, like classic Nolan, big spectacle, you're going to get that. Absolutely. I think probably I actually think one of the weaker elements was the depiction of Odysseus as played by Matt Damon. Which great action sequences. There were a couple in the final third that I went, okay, this is feeling a little goofy. We gotta have this be a little bit more compressed, because now it feels almost like a sketch with how many times we're running back. We're running things back. But I think Odyssey's, or Matt Damon's Odysseus, was really changed by Nolan to be a much more sympathetic, but ultimately kind of came across as like impassive and a little too, I've seen this character a million times. But anyway, you know what? I'm just getting kind of into the nitpicky weeds. Otherwise, the destruction of Troy was so well done. Yeah, it really was. I've heard people divide on Tom Holland either being really good or really bad. I thought Tom Holland was fine. I went in thinking he was going to be so bad because of Twitter, which never listened to Twitter. I thought Tom Holland was fine. You know, he plays. So Tom Holland is Telemachus, who's Odysseus' son, who he hasn't seen since he was a baby. It made sense for his character. I agree. I thought he played exactly who the character was. Not anything that necessarily stood out, but I don't think that character does. It's kind of a coming of age for him, you know, a growing up from the baby that he was when Odysseus left to a young man who's been waiting for his father to come home and is trying to hold off on is trying to hold off on like the collapse of his home country. Him saying dad threw me off, but that's about it. I think in the beginning, I think it really wasn't that bad though, adjusting to the fact that this is modern speech. They didn't say father back then. No, Papa. No. I'm a Gma VIP, so every time she streams at the end of her stream, she says she loves you and will. Almost every time it's so wholesome. She's the best. So wholesome. I did think it was funny afterwards when I was considering that you have Tom Holland, who's in this movie, who's then coming, who's playing Spider-Man, that's coming out, and that also has Zendaya in it, and then Zendaya, who's going to star in Dune 3 alongside Timothée Chalamet, who I honestly wonder if Chris Nolan wanted as Telemachus and he was too expensive or whatever. He's like, let's cast Holland. And then Robert Pattinson, who played opposite Zendaya in the drama and then is also going to be in Dune 3. John Bernthal, who's also in Spider-Man. I'm like, okay, I do think we need to branch out a little bit. I do think we are seeing the same people in everything. There's like 5 actors who are in everything this year. It's very much a polycast. Yeah. I do wonder if Nolan had gone for less. That man does like to do weird stunt casting stuff too. I'm like, why is Ben Safdie? Agamemnon. Anyway, he did that a lot with Oppenheimer, which was one of my issues with that movie. I was like, can you please chill? What are you doing? Stop. Himesh Patel, awesome. He was awesome. Loved his casting. See, I want more people like that. I want more actors who are not in everything. To really, get a showcase different faces in the industry. And I think for a movie like Odyssey, I just keep thinking back to like our chat about Sam Neill, and obviously Jurassic Park is a different movie from Odyssey, but they're blockbusters, and Spielberg cast Sam Neill in the role of Alan Grant, not because he was a big A-lister who was in every big Hollywood movie, but because he's a damn fine actor, and Spielberg realized like, hey, I just need to get good actors in here. And there's so much talent out there. And I do think it's getting to a point where, because you see the same faces popping up in like the big tentpole movies, but also in the mid-budget dramas and comedies, there's a bit of fatigue, and also I think we're losing the ability to really immerse even more in the story because, that's Robert Pattinson, who was great in it, don't get me wrong, but now I've seen Robert Pattinson in probably half of the movies that I've seen this year. It's hard to lose myself in the movie and suspend my disbelief that it's fake when it's Tom Holland staring at me. Yes. And then I think about, Tom Holland as Spider-Man coming out soon. Like there is that kind of barrier that is in place, which prevents you from really dropping into the story as completely as you can, with as great as the filmmaking can be, because you're just seeing the same actors over and over again. That was the best part of Obsession, no names throughout. Yeah, I mean, you look at how successful Obsession was. That was a movie that did not have any familiar faces in its main cast. And I think that there is absolutely room for that, even in the big blockbuster films, because once upon a time, that was the case. Tara, thank you for the 8 months. Gary, thank you for the 47. Melly, thank you for the 12 months. Made it to a year. Let's go. Bad Word TV, thank you for the 12 months. Kept Nice, thank you for the 36. Arkham, thank you for the 5 months. I'm not kidding you, though. I went and saw Odyssey. I came home and passed out. I was tired. But also I think it knocked me the fuck out. It's a 3-hour experience. Yeah, it's long. It's definitely a lot, and it's sometimes a little unrelenting in the big kind of build up scenes as you're like, yes, Nolan, I get it. Okay, you're doing tension. I understand. I'm there. Just compress it a little bit. Bring back movie intermissions. I'm all about movie intermissions. Honestly, I am. I am with what's it called? The Brutalist. Have a little intermission in that thing. That's what they do in plays. You know, that's what they do in live theater. And it's great. And then you sit down for the second act and you feel rejuvenated. You went to the bathroom, got yourself a little drink maybe. Very underrated. I'm all about it. Also, remember there's a conversation about an actor that's in everything all of a sudden, but in truth, he did everything over a long period and some things just scheduled to come out in a short period. That definitely happens. Sometimes people really just book back to back a lot of work, and so it seems like they're suddenly in everything. But I mean, I think I think we do have a problem with the way that also theatrical distribution has changed, so it feels even more like you're seeing the same fucking faces when you go to the theater, right? There's a lot of movies, but most of them are not getting theatrical distribution, even when they should. I sacrificed my pet goldfish for favorable wins for my DoorDash the other night. Yes, favorable wins. So the other part of the Odyssey, which not to do, I'm not doing spoilers or anything, but I will just say it was an interesting decision as to how Nolan approached the manifestation of deities. Because obviously in Greek mythology, spoilers for a very old story, I know, but people are still going to be like, spoilers. But, you know, Nolan's got some, there's a couple little twists. Not twists, but reveals. I think it was a very clear intended decision, obviously, to not to not focus on the gods of Homer's Odyssey, where when you watch it, you may feel one way or another. You may feel like that's what made his version Nolan's version, or you may feel that that is what's missing from it. And really the kind of focus on this being a more modern feeling story was at the expense of the world that the Odyssey, the original Odyssey, you know, the text, the source material lives in. Betty Boot, thank you for the tier 1. Dilemma, thank you for the 7 months. I think I was okay with it. I just, as I said, my main issues had to do with kind of how he wrote Odysseus and how he really wanted Odysseus to come across as sympathetic, almost, I would say, the entirety of the film. Yeah. I appreciated ping-ponging back and forth between the present teases of the war and Odysseus' journey back home. God, it would have sucked if it was linear. Yeah, I think I only had an issue with the pacing once we got to the final third. And it's like, okay, this is an action sequence that is kind of dragging on at this point, and it's on the weaker side of his sequences as opposed to the last 2.5 hours where you have just some unbelievably I keep using the word immersive, but you have some very unbelievably like up front and close scenes. The sacking of Troy is incredible. The way that he portrays it is, I think, one of the best parts of the movie. The constant music was most annoying. Well, it's because it just kept building and building and building, and you're like, we see this, or we've seen it's like the final stretch of it with Odysseus and then Telemachus and the kind of dual sequences happening there was like, all right, okay. This is not even the strongest choreography, action choreography of the film, and it just feels as if it's really going on. But, you know, Nolan is a student of big filmmaking. I do wonder if we'll ever get anything more intimate from him ever again. I think not. Versus like a Denis Villeneuve, who I can see going back and doing something similar to Prisoners again. You know, that man who does Dune 3 and then turns around and can do like an incredible, tense psychological drama. I don't know. I think Nolan's kind of I think this is his thing now, you know? He just makes movies for IMAX. He shoots as big as you can. He likes some I almost said he likes some big and long. Big and long. You will, because eventually he will not be allotted the funds. He was here, but he's got the money, kind of has to spend it. Hollywood won't let anyone else do it. Yeah, I just can't see him wanting to even do that anymore. I can never see him wanting to go back and do a Memento. It feels like he, as a filmmaker, if he can't go as big as one is possibly allowed, I think he'd rather take a break, you know? It feels like he's always wanted to work in this budget range. Yeah, I mean, he is pretty much gone like this. And now he's at the 250 mil. Nolan said he wants to do a horror. Imagine he does like a $300 million horror. Elon Musk says Grok will make a full-length, historically accurate version of the Odyssey before the end of this year. How does this guy just become more and more of a loser every day? It's so funny, too, because he could go off and do similar to Daily Wire. He could just spend his endless money. I mean, he has even more money. World's first trillionaire, and have a conservative slop studio. But no, Grok is going to make a full-length, historically accurate version of the Odyssey. Always from the guys who don't know history. Always from the chuds who are going on and on and on about what's historically accurate. It's like, you actually don't know anything about history aside from your white supremacist version of the world. Like, that's how you look at the world, and all of its history is through your Nazi lens. Historical fantasy via the lens of white supremacy. Like, that's exactly what it is. He could literally produce whatever movie he wants when no one wants to work with him because he's a fucking loser. That's the thing about Elon Musk, is that even a lot of conservatives hate him. He is a reviled figure because he's so beyond just obviously what a piece of shit, evil trillionaire he is. He is an embarrassment. Like, the personality ain't personality-ing. No amount of money is going to make him likable. Oh, God, what a fucking loser. Same guy who was like, Citizen Vigilante is the movie of the year, and here it is for free on Twitter, and got his Grok fanboys to go to Rotten Tomatoes and be like, this is cinema.